again. A political expert says if there is one lesson from the 2014 polls, it is this: the Itoke base has shifted dramatically. Political scientist Dr. Stephen Ratuva says the old political theory that Itoke voters can be easily swayed on pure emotion and traditional protocols is now out the window. Apisala Merambo with the details.
The 2014 general elections had brought with it its fair share of surprises. Amongst that, a unique dynamic swing in the Itoke vote. According to an expert in the field, other countries in the world which use this proportional representation system hardly see parties winning an outright majority.
42 to 46% of the Toke indigenous Fijians voted for Sodelpa. That's below 50%.
Ratuva says this means around 54% to 58% of Itoke voted elsewhere, largely to Fiji First and other minority parties.
So suddenly what we're seeing here is a shift away from ethnic concentration around an ethnic party towards more multiracial party.
Ratuva believes to assume the state of mind of the voters can be misleading.
Toke voters are getting more and more sophisticated. I think one of the assumptions is that their mind is still locked into the early post-colonial, post-independence era of the 1970s and 80s. People change, the world changed. Globalization has shaped the way we relate to each other. Globalization has changed the way we see ourselves, our identity, and how we look at politics. So they have needs which are different from the past.
Dr. Ratuva thinks it is also vital to have a thorough understanding of the political landscape.
So political parties have to be able to understand how society changes, rather than assume that we can drive issues into them which are totally irrelevant and which belong to a particular point in history.
Ratuva added the composition of parliamentary seats where 68% goes to Itoke candidates, 32% to Indo-Fijians and other minorities, including 8 women, shows a more balanced ethnic and gender representation in parliament, which speaks well for democracy. Apisala Merambo, FJ1 News.
Political scientist Dr. Stephen Ratuva says the outcome of the 2014 general elections has left us, and particularly political parties, many lessons. But the Auckland University expert says there are 3 factors in particular that easily stand out for the now successful Fiji First Party.
One is visibility, and secondly is familiarity, and thirdly is relevance. Because in the psychology of the voters, these 3 things oscillate up and down in their minds.
Dr. Ratuva says Fiji First had all these on their side, given the fact they had been running government for 8 years.
Because they've been around since 2006, there was a lot of visibility. And visibility then translates into familiarity. Yeah. And familiarity then translates into relevance. Have they done anything? Is there anything relevant for us here? So political parties should learn those basic voter psychology, particularly in this type of electoral system.
The first order of business for the now democratically elected Vorenge Bainimarama will be to tell the international community that Fiji has now been fully restored to democracy. And to do that, he plans to travel next week to New York and deliver that message to the United Nations. Apisala Merambo explains.
Swamped by the very support that has earned Bainimarama his party's commanding 60% of overall votes counted so far out of the 263,000 votes raked in by Fiji First, Bainimarama alone attracted a phenomenal 70% of his party's overall votes. But even with those kind of staggering number in his favor, Bainimarama acknowledged that in some areas 279 was not the popular choice.
Let me say, I'm disappointed in some areas, because in some areas, villages, settlements, and people within the confines of the polling stations that told me that they will vote for me, and I found out, unfortunately, that was not the case. I can understand them.
Initially setting out to win all 50 seats, Bainimarama admits he would have loved an absolute majority.
Unfortunately, we had wanted, I had mentioned that we wanted 50 seats. Unfortunately, we didn't get as many. And unfortunately, in the sense that come parliamentary, during the parliamentary debate, we will have some people who got their seats through lies. And that's the most unfortunate thing about getting into parliament in the next couple of weeks.
For now, the sitting of Parliament will have to await his return from UN headquarters next week as he takes a fresh mandate and message to the international community. Fiji has returned to democracy.
You know, I'm going to the United Nations this week. Hopefully we'll get something in place before I go. And when I get back, we have a parliament to convene and of course move forward.
He says he will not be rushed into forming a new cabinet.
Not from cabinet. We will decide what the cabinet makeup will be in the next couple of days.
Apisalo Marambo, FJ1 News.
Now, just when you thought the Methodist Church and government had buried the hatchet, it seems old wounds have resurfaced. While the elections may be over, it has now been revealed that a senior member of the Methodist Church had circulated a letter to all 56 divisions around the country in relation to the September 17th general elections. Amongst other things, the letter had opposed the 2013 Constitution's provisions on secular state. A very disappointed Fiji First Leader and Prime Minister Voreqe Bainimarama is now expected to meet with the church hierarchy to demand an explanation.
So they are nothing but a bunch of liars.
The Prime Minister making no bones about how he feels towards the latest revelations.
In that letter they talked about heathens. The heathens that they talked about is still very much alive. They are the heathens. These people supposedly representing the Methodist Church. They are the heathens. We have moved to Christianity. They want to take us back.
Bainimarama even has his own description of the motives behind it.
I thought that, the Bible story about the wolf in sheepskin. I see the people writing these letters. Behind these letters are the wolves in sheepskin.
In a scathing attack back at the church, he also reminded the church that the institution belonged to its congregation and not its leaders.
And it's very unfortunate. They think that the church belongs to them. The church does not belong to them. The church belongs to Methodists like me, okay, and to all the rest of the Methodists. They think they have a right to dictate to us what to believe in, and believe in their rubbish.
Bainimarama says unless these types of antics are exposed, it will continue.
I want the people of Fiji to know that, and I want the international community to know that.
Won't you take any action against them?
No, you can't. There's nothing we can do. But when we want to bring people together of all races, these are the people that are bringing discriminatory policies. It's no good for Fiji, certainly no good for Methodists like me. For these people to be dictating to me, this is what I want you to do.
He now plans to address the matter directly with the leadership of the Methodist Church soon.
Of course I will. And I think it has gone out, but I will want to do it again. I will want to tell them how pissed off I am as a Methodist, how pissed off I am because I'm a Prime Minister of this nation when I want to bring all races together. And they're in the habit of putting in this barrier between races with these discriminatory policies.
Rachana Nath, FJ1 News.
And the Methodist Church has responded, saying it has not done anything wrong when it asked its members to think carefully about who they chose when casting their votes. The church says while this issue is being taken out of context, they will, however, relook at some of the administrative processes when it comes to releasing official information to the public. Apisalo Marambo with the details.
The Methodist Church says the Prime Minister is entitled to his views.
Yes, that's the Prime Minister's view. It has come from him. I was asking some of my friends, what is he referring to enable him to call some of us liars? What was it?
Nawandra also cleared the air on the allegation made to the media, saying they had simply asked their congregation to be fully informed before making their choice at the ballot.
With the election fast approaching, we wanted to ensure that our members were aware of the conference resolutions and reflected on them before they make up their own mind on who to vote for.
But Nawandra says the content of the letter being referred to did not refer to any political party, even though references were made to policies of the past and the present government. Nawandra added the language and tone of the letter was non-adversarial. The incident also prompting the church to relook at how it disseminates information.
Our communication department was only revived last year, and as such, departments are not used to having their communications vetted for language and context, etc. They have followed a process for more than 20 years and for direct communication with our ministers and members. And that's one of the things that happened here.
Nawandra believes the church needs to know why such comments have been made publicly.
Just want to know what was really the point of his calling us liars, so that we may be able to answer him.
The Methodist Church Standing Committee will meet tomorrow. Apisalo Merambo, FJ1 News.
A new book titled Higher Education and Community Engagement in the Pacific, Development and Policy Issues was launched today at the University of the South Pacific. The publication presents cases which illustrates areas where higher education institutions can do more to accelerate development in developing countries like Pacific Island states. Apisalo Merambo with the details.
This publication presents a series of cases and perspectives to illustrate areas where higher education institutions can do more to accelerate development of the small island developing states in the Pacific, containing contributions from which scholars can extract valuable lessons to take higher education in Pacific Island states up another notch, looking particularly at services offered by local tertiary institutions.
We are now moving from face-to-face to blended and now to online courses. However, even the USP is pushing on online courses. There are still some issues there, especially those who are staying right in rural areas. There is a problem of connection, or even those people who are in rural areas, they don't have even computers at all. So how will they learn the subject which we teach at USP if there is problem in these areas?
The book also explores the potential impact and legacy of current activities, as well as trying to uncover critical factors for success and to understand the implications for change within higher education in the Pacific.
This new program, which is called One Laptop Per Child. So it was because there was a gap there. The ICT was taught only at secondary and tertiary, and there is nothing done at this level.
The area of research is also a topic of interest in the newly launched publication.
So what I'm emphasizing there, if we build the capacity of local researchers, I think we don't have to rely too much on outside researchers. We can depend on our own people, and there I also emphasize the need for action research. Instead of thinking about all other research methodologies, we can just focus on action research, which can help us solve our day-to-day problems.
The content of the book also stressed the importance of equipping trainee teachers for the right environment.
The need for the teacher education programs to be better connected to the world of work, because a lot of changes are happening in the teaching field. And if we do not align with what is happening out there in the field, teachers may have a lot of difficulties when they graduate and go and teach.
Altogether, 13 academics contributed to the content of the publication. Apisalo Merambo, FJ1 News.
Hello again. A research project is being initiated by the Itoke Trust Fund Board on traditional funeral ceremonies, known locally as somates. They hope this new research will shed more light into the cultural and economic significance of Itoke funeral ceremonies. Apisalo Merambo spoke with those planning the research.
It's a new research into an age-old practice. While it is common knowledge that Itoke funeral ceremonies can be a lot more costly compared to other ethnic groupings, for the Itoke Trust Fund Board, this planned research hopes to examine the cultural logic behind that.
Our practices has implications in terms of the well-being of the whole community. Now we live in a monetary society. There are implications in terms of finances, outlays, in terms of our culture, what we do, what we don't do. People have adapted and adopted various forms of practicing this culture that we are known for as an indigenous community of this country.
Kalomeira says the primary objective of the exercise is to provide an updated source of reference for the Itaukei community, especially in a rapidly evolving and modernized society.
It is a challenge, but we're just doing the research. And as you correctly stated, people are already practicing the changes. So it's just for us to go and document the changes, why the changes, and people can learn from it. And as we live on into the future, we look at who we are as a people, our culture identifies who we are, and how can we adopt and adapt to the global environment that we're living in.
Kalomeira adds that their findings will also be useful not just locally, but also to our highly mobile Fijians the world over.
Mind you, even people of our community who live overseas, they continue to practice these things. And even it might even help them come up with research. It's not only practice here in Fiji. Where our communities are overseas, they also do practice this in different forms. So the changes are already taking place.
Kalomeira says the research could also bring to the fore the fact that our unique culture is no longer static, but a dynamic entity that evolves with time, making us even more unique.
We are part of a much bigger global economy. We are no longer isolated. And like all societies in the world, especially minority races of the world, and we are a minority race. We don't deny that fact. But unless we see and promote things that separate us as a race or as a community and try and maintain those values, we will be just absorbed into this global economy.
It's no secret that Itaukei funeral gatherings on average can prove to be much more costly than most. Now, for the first time, proper research will try and determine not just the cultural significance of our somates, but also its economic and financial implications. Apisolo Rambo, FJ1 News.
Last weekend saw the QVS family of current students, all scholars and family members celebrate the Golden Jubilee anniversary celebration of the school chapel. The chapel that was first opened in 1964 was initiated when the Great Council of Chiefs and the government at that time decided to build a fitting memorial for our fallen soldiers of the 2 world wars. Apisolo Rambo was at QVS and filed this report.
Standing tall and proud after 50 good years of faithful service to the lives of those that has passed through the institution, most of whom are here again today to reminisce their days walking through its doors, savoring the moment, reflecting on values the institution has taught them.
Not until 1964, when this chapel was dedicated, did we actually feel the spiritual growth in our own making, in our own being, as we worship here. And we come here for school assemblies. The choir will practice here after prep on Fridays.
The chapel was a sea of colors, ranging from family members, current students and prominent old scholars both in the government and in private sectors in attendance. The theme, fostering servanthood and stewardship in Fiji's 21st century.
Stewardship. Looking after something for someone else. A custodian. What is it that we, who have been fortunate enough to come to this school, need to look after? What do we need to be custodians of? What do we need to protect? And for whom?
The purpose of the celebration was also about donating much-needed funds to the chapel's trust fund, which will be used for the maintenance of the facility, a facility they believe has been instrumental in their upbringing.
This chapel, it's not only just a physical building, you know, it has so much value and meaning to a young boy that goes through this school.
For the students, it was also a time to reflect on how divine intervention and guidance could provide a beacon of hope during those challenging years of boarding school life.
It is a place where we find confidence, a place where confidence is built, a place where we where focus is, our minds are reset, where directions are set. And it is also a place where we find refuge in times of distress, especially when, as a young boy, coming in and joining with older brothers and being encouraged by the Word of God, by our chaplains that have gone past it. It is a very special day.
The centennial celebrations for the chapel will be held in 2064. Following long-standing traditions of all England's private schools such as Eton and Rugby, an institution would not be complete without a centre of worship. The rationale behind the construction of this QVS chapel from 1958 to 1964. Here in Matavatudo for FJ1 News, I'm Apisalo Merambo.
And for a student who has come all the way from Japan to attend Wulini Turanga, the QBS Chapel Golden Jubilee celebration couldn't have come at a better time, giving him an opportunity to reflect on what it's like to be a student in a school that has produced its fair share of prominent citizens.
Attending a male boarding school can be a challenge on its own, but having come all the way from Japan to be part of one of Fiji's remotely located boys' boarding institution is a totally different story, one that needs to be told.
Like first time when I come to QVS, so many things so different from my country, culture shock. But I have to adapt to the environment to stay with Fijian boys, and I learned a lot. Also the strugglings, and also have a lot of good memories.
Shaw says the Chapel Golden Jubilee celebration today has now summed up why all extracurricular school activities seems to be centered around the assurance of spiritual guidance and strength, a routine he has personally witnessed in the past 4 years.
We'll use church every Sunday, and sometimes like special program we also have in the church. And before the deans or before athletics, the games, we'll come here and pray for the guys who participate in the sports.
Shaw added, seeing all scholars successful in their different professional careers has given him a whole new perspective.
I think those old boys are really good role model to all of us. And I feel really proud because Queen Victoria School be like sending all those famous guys to the society. Like QVS is a main school in Fiji. I'm really proud of that. 2014
is Shaw's last year in the school. He has yet to decide whether he will return as a 7th former. Apisalo Merambo, FJ1 News.
We have more news after the break. Stay with us.